hers.
Because when your son or your eldest daughter left to Syria, you are alone eventually.
Alone and in shame. The group started in 2012, even before ISIS emerged. It's grown steadily to 48 people. And now, family members are not just providing comfort to one another in their grief, they are also becoming advocates.
We can go to the authority and to say, please help us. We are here. These children are Belgian children, and we must help them, and we must also help the parents.
Hennigia married a Moroccan man and converted to Islam 22 years ago. Her trouble started when her son Anis took a year off after high school. She said fine as long as he got a job, but he couldn't find one, which she attributes to the well-documented discrimination facing young men from North African backgrounds here. When he suddenly started waking up early for morning prayers, she thought it was a sign of discipline.
I was not thinking that it was the beginning of the recruitment. Then after, when he was left, I said, oh yes, it was the recruitment.
Next thing she knew, he was talking about the Palestinian cause, how it had festered for 60 years and no one was helping them. Next, he started talking about Syria.
But it was very more aggressive about the problem of Syria, because he said, no authorities help the Syrian people. Nobody do something for them. It's not possible. I must help them. I'm a Muslim, and I can't stay on my chair when they are just dying by Bashar and so on.
Hennigia and her husband talked to him, reasoned with him, even suggested he go to Syria with an NGO if he was so impassioned about the cause. They became more and more concerned that his positions were hardening. When they found out he was planning to go to Syria, they went to the police and tried to have him put on a no-fly list. They were even assured he would be stopped if he tried to leave. The next thing they knew, the authorities were calling, not to say they'd stopped him, but to say he was on his way to Turkey. She was beside herself.
It was not a joke. I asked it to you, but I don't do it.
But the officer she spoke to said they didn't have the power to stop him in the end because he was 18, an adult. Hennigia managed to stay in touch with her son sporadically by text, but she was never able to persuade him to come home. And a year after he left, she received the news she dreaded.
I received a short message from a young boy who was there. And he said to me, are you the mom? Yes, I'm the mom. And I must just say that your son is died. He was a good guy. He was loved by everybody. You must be proud of him. And I asked, who are you? And say, I'm a friend of your son. And he gave me your phone number. And he said to me, if I must die, please let it know to you.
Hennigia never gets all the way through this part of the story without breaking down. But even through her grief, she's very clear about her mission. She's always on the move these days, talking to kids about the dangers of radicalization, even going online to try to persuade kids who've left to come home. And she's pressing the authorities all the time to get their act together. One big issue is that there's no way for recruits to have a change of heart, because if they come back, they'll be thrown in jail.
So they are afraid to come back. They say, I will go in prison, I will have no future. So, in place, instead of to have no future, I prefer to stay here. And that is terrible.
Hennigia wants prosecutors to get creative about how to deal with people who want to come home and be rehabilitated. And she says the Belgian government needs to do much more to create opportunities for young people like her son who feel like foreigners in their own country. She says she visits schools where young people say, we see no future, we have no place. They don't.